All right, looks like we have the majority of the people here, so we'll go ahead and get started now. Welcome everyone to the WASFA application portal functionality session. Oh, let's see here. There we go. Okay, so presenting today will be myself. My name is Leslie Gonzalez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the program manager at WASAC here with our need-based programs. And then joining me today is my colleague, who I'll let him introduce
Yeah.
himself.
Hi. Thanks, Leslie. Good morning, everyone. Victor Fernandez, he, him pronouns, and I'm the customer interface manager for our division, need-based programs, student financial assistance. So pleasure to be here.
All right, thank you, Victor. And so we just wanted to quickly mention that in today's session, we only have the Q&A and React features available, so the comments are disabled. But if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A feature and we will address them later on in the presentation. And then, if you would like to React, the React feature is available there. So on the agenda today, we will be going over, general overview of the WASFA, and then we will talk about the WASFA application or what we call student experience. So what students see in their WASFA accounts. And then we will talk about how to access the WASFA information in our WASAC portal and then our corrections process. And then we will go over some known issues and then workarounds. And then lastly, we will go over some questions. We will also have time for questions towards the middle of the presentation, but if anything comes up, please put any questions in the Q&A. All right. So to get us started, we just wanted to provide some information on, what the WASFA is for anyone who's new or just needs a refresher. So the WASFA or Washington Application for State Financial Aid is our state application for students who do not file a FAFSA or the free application for federal student aid. People who complete the WASFA are applying for state financial aid programs only. And so there are many different reasons why a student would choose to complete a WASFA rather than a FAFSA. And so, as you can see, we've listed the examples here below, a few being that, a student isn't documented or their parents are, or they don't qualify for federal financial aid because of their status. Another reason being that a student or parent simply chooses to complete a WASFA rather than a FAFSA, or if they have privacy concerns about completing a FAFSA, they can opt into completing a WASFA instead. Additionally, any student who has owes a repayment on a federal grant or is in default on a federal loan can complete a WASFA to still be considered for state aid programs. And so we do ask that students complete only one of the two applications. So either the FAFSA or the WASFA, we ask that students don't complete both applications since both applications would qualify a student for state financial aid. So, students should complete a WASFA if it's the right choice for them or if they decide to. And then with that, we do have a WASFA questionnaire that might be helpful. And so we have the URL here, but it can also be accessed from our WASFA page on our WASFA website, or sorry, our WASAC website. And so that would be under the should you complete a FAFSA or a WASFA section, which would be towards the top of that page. And then it would directs them to complete the questionnaire here. So when you click on the hyperlink, it will then open a new tab and then students can complete the WASFA questionnaire. So they would have to click start here to be able to move forward. But if you want to take a look or if it's helpful, we do have that available here that can help students decide which application might be best for them. And so, yeah, the different types of aid that WASFA applicants can receive or be considered for are our state financial aid programs, which includes our Washington College Grant or the WA Grant, College Bound, and then Passport to College, as well as state work study for those who are eligible. And then additionally, students can also qualify for institutional aid, and whether that be institutional grants or scholarships or loans that are given from an institution. And so I did want to talk about WASFA data and privacy. WASF, we do understand that there can be apprehension when it comes to providing information that is required on the WASFA application. And so, WASAC is committed to protecting the confidentiality of the information and privacy of students and their families. The data that's collected on the WASFA can only be used for the sole purpose of determining eligibility for state financial aid programs. And then WASAC takes the privacy of personal information extremely seriously and is committed to taking all available measures to protect student data. And then we also support students and families in making decisions that best fit their educational goals and risk considerations. And with that, our agency recently released a statement on financial aid applicant privacy as well. And so this was made available in January of this year, so it's fairly new. And so this can also be found on our WASFA page, so at wasac.wa.gov/WASFA. And it's located towards the bottom of that page. So if you're interested, we invite you to take a look at that. Or if you have any students that you're helping that have concerns, please have them read the statement as well. And they can find that on our WASPA page here again, at the end of that page. And then you will need to click on the hyperlink here. And the statement is available in both English and Spanish. And so if you click on the hyperlink, it will then take you directly to the full statement. And so, yeah, the WASFA can be used to determine a student's residency. And so we do have a residency affidavit that is actually included on the WASFA application. So students will certify to the affidavit when they complete a WASFA. And so some of the residency requirements for students with any immigration status or citizenship status are that they have to maintain a primary residence in Washington for at least 12 consecutive months immediately before their first term at the college that will be determining the residency. Residency is typically determined at the time of admission. And then again, at least all students who complete a WASFA will already complete an affidavit as part of the application. And so with that, we do ask that students who complete a WASF application that they are not asked to also complete a separate paper affidavit for residency, as they would have already certified to that on as part of the WASFA. And so then at the public colleges, the residency officer determines a student's residency, and the financial aid office should work directly with the residency officer if they find any conflicting information. And then we also invite the financial aid offices to share the student residency report with the residency office or officer. And we'll talk a little bit more about that residency report later on. Um, and then at the private colleges, financial aid administrators are the ones who do determine a student's residency. And so, if there is any conflicting information, it would be the financial aid office that would need to resolve any conflicting information in regards to a student's residency. Okay, yeah. So the WASFA closely mirrors the FAFSA application, so it has similar questions. It's available every year and for annual completion. Our application is available in both English and Spanish, so it includes Spanish and English already on the application, so students don't have to trigger anything. It comes as part of the application itself. And the applications typically open on October 1st. The past 2 years, we've had late openings after FAFSA simplification, but the good news is we are anticipated to open on time for the 26-27 aid year. So that is expected to open on October 1st. And then the applications do close on June 30th of this year. So our 24-25 WASFA will be closing here at the end of this month. And then students do need to complete an application annually at wasac.wa.gov/WASFA if they will be filing a WASFA. And so, yeah, now we will be going over the WASFA application process. So what we call student experience. So this is kind of what students will see when they create their account or complete an application. So to begin with, the student can log into their existing account if they have one or are a returning student, or if they're a new student, they will need to create an account here on the home page through the sign up option. And then students will need the following information. They will need an email address, and we ask that students to use a personal email versus a school email when possible. And then they'll need to create a password. Then they will be asked to include their name. And so we ask that they also provide their name as they will be providing to their college as well to avoid any conflicting information. And then their date of birth. They will also be asked for a social security number or ITIN if they have it. It's not required though. So if a student does not have either, that's not a problem. We in the past, we did advise students to include all zeros for that section if they didn't have either an SSN or ITIN number, but now we just ask that they leave that section blank and they'll be able to move forward if they leave it blank. And then lastly, if a student submitted a WASFA in 2015, they and are creating a new account, they will be asked to include their old WASFA ID number upon account creation. And so when a student creates an account, they will be asked the following question here. So they will be asked if they've already completed a FAFSA or have already submitted one or are eligible to. If a student selects no, they will then be directed to finish creating their WASFA account. If a student selects yes to this question here, they will receive the following message. So if they select yes, they'll receive if you're uncomfortable submitting a FAFSA, you can use the WASFA for state financial aid, but won't qualify for federal aid. If you've already completed a FAFSA, a second application is not needed. And then, if a student is otherwise eligible but is choosing to complete a WASFA versus the FAFSA, they would just need to select no to be able to move forward with their WASFA account creation. So even if a student is eligible for the FAFSA but is choosing again to complete a WASFA, they would just need to select no, even though technically the answer is yes, in order to be able to move forward. So once a student has logged into their account or finishes creating their WASFA account, they will enter into their account dashboard, as you can see here. And in order to access or complete an application, a student will have to enter into their document section tab in their profile to then be able to enter or edit an application, as you can see here in the screenshots. And then once a student enters their application, they will be guided through the application by section, just as you can see here on this example here. And then applicants can see where they are in each section and can also save and exit at any time. So for example, in this screenshot, a student would be in the student school list section, and then they would be in page 3 of that section. So it will also have a numbered section or numbered portion within a section. So students can always see where they're at in the application or how far along they have. And then once they've reviewed each page of a section, it will change to a check mark. And then as you can see here, these are, oh, sorry about that. They will have this little stopwatch, letting them know that they still need to review the pages in that specific section. So once an applicant reaches the Washington State Information section, they will answer residency questions, including the residency affidavit, as mentioned before. And so the three main things that a student is certifying as part of the the affidavit is that they will have earned a high school diploma, GED, or diploma equivalent before their first term at the college that determines their residency. Two, that they will maintain a primary residence in Washington for at least 12 consecutive months before their first term at the college. And then three, that they're promising that either of the two is true, that they are a US citizen, national, or permanent resident, or that they will file an application to become a permanent resident of the US as soon as they're eligible to, as soon as or when they're eligible to. And then, so for the residency affidavit, if a student selects no to either of the three main points here, if they answer no, They will then be presented with an additional question, as you can see here. They will be asked if they have a current expired, or sorry, an expired DACA or current work authorization card, or a temporary protected status, TPS, or a U visa. If a student selects yes to this additional question, they'll just be directed to move forward with the application as normal. If a student selects no to this question, that they will not meet either the residency affidavit or that follow-up question, they will receive this following message. So based on their response, we're not able to determine your eligibility for state financial aid or in-state tuition. And so students will still be able to complete the rest of their application, but we do recommend that they connect with their financial aid office for more information regarding their eligibility or for additional financial aid resources that might be available to them. And this is important because it means that a student can complete a WASFA even if their eligibility as a resident has not been determined. So they wouldn't be blocked from completing it if they certified no to the affidavit. And then like the FAFSA, we do have a student circumstances section. So during the dependency determination, a student who is considered to be dependent for financial aid purposes can indicate if they have unusual circumstances. And if they select yes to any of the questions in this section, they will then be uh, determined to be an independent student for financial aid purposes and will not be prompted to include their parent information on the application and will be able to move forward with completing with only their student information. And so once a student agrees to the disclosures and reviews the application, so as you can see here, there's all these check marks. So that means the student has gone through all of, or completed all the required fields and has gone through each section of the application. They will then uh, be presented with the additional questions or the disclosure. Now, once they've gone through that, they will then be able to sign their application. And so they can consent to reading the disclosure and then electronically sign their form. For dependent students, they will need to invite their parent to sign their application. For independent students, once they sign, their application is complete. And so for dependent students, they will have to send their parent an invitation to sign their application. And then to avoid confusion, parent and student WASFA accounts will display their account type as well as their registered names on their profiles. And so when a student logs into their WASFA account, they will receive a Hello Student welcome message in their dashboard or document section. When a parent logs into their WASFA account, they will receive a welcome parent message upon logging in. And as you can see, they are a little different, the parent versus student accounts. A parent will only have a document section, and then a student will have the option to go into these different tabs, dashboard documents, and useful links, as well as the registered name for both parents and students will display on the top right-hand corner of the page so they can see, you know, their name, if they're in the right account, because their name will also display there, um, a- apart from the welcome message that will display. And so that was a pretty brief review of the WASFA application process or student experience, but we do have our WASFA guides on our WASFA page at wasac.wa.gov/WASFA. And we currently have the guides available for both the 24-25 as well as the 25-26 academic years. And so, if you're curious, you're welcome to look on our site here to review the WASFA guides. They do provide more detailed information on the account creation process for both students as well as parents, and then as well as just the general application completion process. All right, so just some WASFA application stats that we wanted to share with you from previous academic years as well as the current 24-25 academic year and then the upcoming 25-26 aid year. So as you can see here, we have the application submission counts as of 6 months and then the full cycle counts for the ones that we are able to provide as of now. So we did go ahead and include the count that we have as of yesterday. And so for the 24-25 academic year, we have 9,360 WASF applications that were submitted or have been submitted. And for the upcoming 25-26 academic year, we at the 6 month count, so as of yesterday as well, that total is 6,024 applications that have been submitted so far. And so we don't yet have the WCG awards or CBS award information available yet because they are dependent on final interim reports. And so we are just now in final interim for 24-25. So we're not able to provide that information quite yet. But as you can see, applications and WCG awards continue to increase while we have seen a decrease in college-bound awards. And then lastly, we just wanted to share that we do have paper applications available now for our institutions that have eligible prison education programs or PEP. And the paper applications are only available for those institutions. But we just wanted to share that that is now an option and is available. So before we move over to Victor, I did just want to see if we have any questions.
Yes,
That,
Leslie, we do
okay,
have a couple of questions for you today.
okay.
The first question, if a student submitted a FAFSA and
Oh,
was eligible for federal and state aid, subsequently they went into default on a federal loan, can they still have state aid based on the FAFSA, or do they have to do a WASFA to be eligible?
yeah, so they should still be able to be considered for state aid through their FAFSA, even if they would not be eligible for federal aid. Um, yeah, with their FAFSA application.
Right, so they don't have to complete a second
Yeah,
WASFA. The FAFSA can
no.
be used to identify it.
Yeah.
Perfect. The next question, if a student completed a WASFA a long time ago, what is the time frame to refill WASFA application? And then the second part of the question is, if a student forgot the WASFA ID, what is the next step to complete the WASFA application?
Yeah, so it does depend, but what I would recommend is, if you are working with a student in that situation, to have them reach out to us. We can look them up in our system. So if we still have history of an account for them, we can help them recover their email or login information, so that they don't have to create a new one. But again, if we don't have record of that, I believe it's any accounts that were created before 2015, we don't have record of. And so then we would be able to advise them to create a new WASFA account. But they can definitely reach out to us and we can, best advise on what the next steps would be.
Okay, so for the first part of the question, I'm not sure if I am understanding it correctly, but if it is asking if they completed a WASFA a long time ago, what is the time frame to complete the WASFA application? So I'm assuming that if it's within this thing, each year they have to complete a WASFA, just like they would a FAFSA. And I think you might have addressed the part if it was done prior and we don't have record of it. Leslie, do you have an idea if that's
Of
what? So Quay, if you wanted to extend on that question, if we answered it already correctly, please let us know. If not, if you can clarify your question, we'd be happy to address it further. Okay, and then the final one is student eligible for state aid if the student owes state income tax or files bankruptcy?
Yeah, so there are no blocks on the WASFA, and so we still ask that if they filed taxes to include that information. It's always 2 years prior to the application year. But we would have, I guess, if they owe on state taxes, I'm not quite sure. I don't think that would affect their eligibility for state aid. Gabi, do you
Right.
know?
Correct, because we do not link to the state, garnishment and those kind of things. We don't have information from that. So as long as they are qualifying on their financial aid application on the WASFA, they wouldn't have a block on that.
Okay.
Great. We did get another question. How does the student make a correction if they have a name change?
Yeah, so That's something they would have to correct on their application. Um, they would still have to sign off with the original registered spelling of their name, but it's something they can update and they would have to update on their application. So let's say they had completed the 25-26 WASFA and they need to correct their name. They would just have to edit their application to correct it in their student information section. When they sign, they would have to sign off with the previous registered spelling. But once they sign off, it will autocorrect to how they have it in their student information section. But I know that's can be confusing. So, if you have a student that you're working with that needs to correct their name, please have them also reach out to us and we can include or provide them with screenshot instructions on how to correct that or update their name.
Okay, one more just came in before we move forward. Can the college make corrections or is it still on the student?
Yeah, so we will be talking about corrections. Actually, Victor will be coming on here shortly. So corrections are now available, but yeah, Victor will be talking about that here shortly.
Okay, so that was the final question for this section. Any further questions that come in, we'll address when Victor is through with his
Okay.
portion. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna transition here. I'm gonna share my part of the presentation. Do we see it there? Okay. All right. So for those of you that came in late, I'm Victor Fernandez, he, him pronouns, and customer interface manager for the Student Financial Assistance Division here at WASAC. Yeah, so before we jump straight into corrections, I have a few slides here to talk about our WASFA interface page here. So this is our WASFA interface page. It's located under programs. If you don't have access to this, please reach out to your financial aid director, and they should be able to provide you with permission to view this page. So on this page, you can view all students for a given academic year. Select the year and you just click on search, and that'll populate populate your WASFA students for your school. And then you can, once that populates, you can export that to a CSV or ISER-like file. Individual students can be searched by name, email, SSN, ITIN, date of birth, or applicant ID. And we recommend searching by name and date of birth, since there are many students with the same name and also a way to identify fraudulent apps. Registry report. So Leslie briefly brought this up. So this information is available in our portal with an option to download in a CSV file. New and updated applications are loaded into our WASAC portal every night. And just a reminder, you'll only be able to see a student's WASFA if they added your school. So if you can't find a student, it could be because the student didn't add your school to their school list when they're completing their WASFA application. So on the resident report, it's simple. You would just click on the radio button there, residency data only, and then click on, and then if you click on search, it'll populate below, but you can also click on a CSV and that will export to a CSV file for you to view and for you to view and share with your admissions or residency office. Just a reminder on this is because the data in this report reflects student application responses, all residency determinations should be completed and verified if necessary. All right, corrections. It's a long time coming. It's been It's been a long time. We've been over a year on it. I mean, it worked for a little bit and then it shut down, and then it worked briefly and then it shut down again. And so this has been a roller coaster ride for our team. For me personally, it's been an up and roller coaster ride working with our application server regent. So I just really wanted to thank you for your continued patience as we work resolving these technical issues affecting WASFA corrections. We sent out an email last week in regards to finding a solution for corrections. Just a reminder that pending corrections that were submitted prior to May 1st were reset. So if you had a pending correction submitted before then, please go back and resubmit your correction. For 25-26, we are working to establish a better process. But for the meantime, we wanted to provide a workaround for the current year. So stay tuned for updates for 25-26. I don't have an estimate date yet, but we'll email you all as soon as we get to that step. With 24-25 corrections, we ask that you submit them as soon as possible prior to the final interim due date, so that we have time to process before finalizing your report. So actually, let me back up. So before you submit your final interim report, be sure that you have all your corrections in there, and then we would need a couple of days at least to process it. And so just a reminder on that. The next slides, I'm going to provide you with how corrections are submitted and processed. The reasons to correct a WASFA application. These are just a few highlighted reasons. Adding a confirmed ITIN or SSN, correcting incorrect demographic information, dependency override determination after the student answered yes to other or unusual circumstances questions. And I know there's been a lot of pending on that. So those are coming in. And so get those in as soon as you can. And the last is professional judgment on corrections to income. So this slide is just highlighting like that email that we sent out. It was actually sent out on June 11th. So if you didn't receive that email, and if you'd like to have a copy, just let us know. I think it was sent to financial aid directors. So this is kind of highlighting the steps here. Corrections are made and submitted through the WASFA portal, and then the WASFA team will update the student's application with your changes directly with our application provider, Regent. After we do that, the WASFA team will send a secure message from the WCG email through WASFA portal. So it's a secure message to the person who messaged or created a correction in the WASFA portal. It's going to include an attached PDF of the application with the changes. So this is a new step. Once the team receives the affidavit message, so once you reply to that message, there's instructions in that message on what you need to reply with. We will submit the changes on the Regent side, and then the updated transaction will be available in the WASFA portal within 2 business days. I just want to emphasize the secure message. So once we send your secure message, the message should populate in your when you log back into your portal account. It's in the upper right hand corner. It'll say you have one new message. Just click on that message and then you can reply right away. You'll also receive an automated email as well, just saying that you have a new message in the portal. Click here. So you click that link and it'll take you to the portal, and that's where you would reply and send us a message, and then we can move forward with move forward with processing your correction. So the quicker they reply, the quicker that we can finalize your correction. I've sent out quite a few last week and earlier this week, and so I'm still waiting on some of you to respond back. So If you haven't seen any updated transactions, it's because we haven't received a reply yet to the affidavit response. All right. So after searching for a student on the WASFA interface page, you want to click on their name to access all the WASFA transactions, and also all the WASFA fields. And so this screen here is just showing the WASFA fields, and you can only edit the latest transaction. Once you click on edit, so let's say there's transaction 50, 51, you click on edit next to 51. Actually, the example here is 53, sorry. You click on edit next to 53, you will be directed to the editing screens. So from here, you just go through each tab, and you can edit any information on the application. So after you make changes, you'll be shown with the changes that you made, just to double check. And then there's a blue button there where you can submit it or cancel the correction, return back to the student detail page. Corrections are processed nightly, and a new transaction will appear within 2 business days after the WASFA team receives the affidavit message. So just emphasizing, it's not 2 business days when you click on submit. It's 2 business days after we receive the affidavit, the reply message from you to confirm that the information is correct. It's also important to note that additional changes cannot be made if they are in pending. So it would say pending after you submit it. You need to wait until these changes are clear, or once it's processed, to update additional information. Professional judgment. So this can be done by editing the WASFA, similar to how professional judgment is processed within the FAFSA. The process needs to be consistent and documented, just like it would be with a FAFSA filer. There's nothing to indicate PJ has been done when editing the WASFA, except in the circumstance of a dependency override. If approved, you will want to click on the Approve Unusual Circumstances button for a dependency override. If not approved, the student would need to add their parents' information to have a valid WASFA. So that's something that you just need to communicate directly with the student if you did not approve their special circumstances. So we're going to pause, and before I pass it back to Leslie, Gabi, do we have some fun, exciting questions to share?
We absolutely do. And I'm going to take these a little bit out of order, but we have the first question is, so we are not able to make corrections for the 25-26 academic year yet?
Good question, and I forgot to touch base on that. So yes, you can go ahead and submit 25-26 corrections, but they're going to be on hold for the moment until we get through 24-25. So we have quite a few 24-25 coming in right now, and that's our high priority, is getting through those. But yes, you can certainly include your 25-26. Just know that they won't be processed, and maybe that's something I can take back to the team. Is we can send out an email on what that timeline will look like once we get started on processing 25-26. But hope to answer your question. Okay, I got a thumbs up. That's good.
Okay, and then will there be functionality to track WASFA corrections through a query or report summary?
That's a great question. We don't have something like that right now, but that I could see our IT team developing. So you're asking for, and Gabi, let me know if I'm saying this right. It's like kind of like on a WASFA landing page, a radio button that says process corrections, and you click on that button, and then it populates what you've submitted and what's been processed. Is that, Gabi, is that how you're
Not quite. Up, Lorena responded saying yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Didn't have to
Yeah.
guess. Perfect.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's yeah. Thanks for asking that question. That can certainly we can certainly do something like that. So we'll take that back to the team and share that with our IT team. So thank you.
Absolutely. Love the suggestions.
Hmm.
Let's see what makes sense. Will the new transaction after correction have their new ICER marker?
Yes.
Okay. I have 5 students that I must do income corrections for the 24-25 academic year. Can you please walk me through the process of income adjustment?
Yeah, sure. So back to really quick. Oh wait,
We're going forward, Victor.
going forward. Dang it. Sorry, hang on a second. My my boxes are okay. My bad. All right. So yeah, when you after on this slide here, so this slide, so after you search, well, I guess let me back up to sorry. Where's this slide at? Okay, well, okay. After on the WASFA landing page, you search for your student and then you click on their name and it takes you to this page here that you're looking at. And so when you click on edit to do a correction, you want to, this is the field, so that you got the tabs across the top and there's an income tab up top. When you get to that section, this is where you can make income related changes. So after you make your changes, then you would click on submit and then send those through. And then once we receive it, we'll make those income changes on our end and then send you a PDF for you just to confirm. And once you respond that it looks good, and it'll be processed that day, and you should see an updated transaction the following day.
Great. Next question. Is a student able to make any correction again online if the school has made the correction based upon professional judgment?
So yeah, I mean, if a student, so after professional government was approved, that creates a new transaction. Yeah, a student could go back and edit their application. If that's, I think that's when here, yes, the student does have that ability.
Okay, let's see. A comment. I'm not sure if there's a question in this, but let me read it. I did try to make a WASFA correction before May 1st, where I just needed to update the high school info. It would not let me submit them, however, because the student did not provide income info and we did not have that information ourselves. Do we need to verify income information before we can make a correction, even if our corrections is not income related?
So good question. And so you would have to work with the student to have that student provide that information on their application. I know that that's an inconvenience, but unless you can verify with the student what that is, and then you can go into the correction tool and update those fields yourself. But yes, if those fields are blank, you would need to work with the student first to get that filled out before doing your update into high school field.
Okay, the person said thank you for that. So you did answer their question.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this one might be related. They're both submitted by an anonymous person. So if it is you, if you want to clarify, but it does ask, when will there be functionality on the WASAC platform for name changes to correctly update all parts together? WAS, dash WASFAs, Seesaw and CBS eligibility checker. Currently, this causes a lot of issues for interim reports when students make changes, submit applications with different numbers. We would think that since WASAC controls the process, there should be a way to match up all the identifiers for a student and apply it to their entire record.
Yeah. Um, No, it's not that easy, unfortunately, because students create many multiple accounts, and so that create if they don't know their if they enter, they if they don't know their ITIN or SSN, or make a mistake, they can create as many accounts as they can. So that's we don't have control of that, unfortunately. But I know that we have. So if you do come across multiple IDs that need to be merged, we can merge those records for you. You just would need to send us a secure message, with what needs to be merged. I know this is a discussion we've had multiple times on how to smooth this process to smooth this out. And I can't fully answer your question, but I know we've been talking about it, and it's on upcoming project list on how to match, multiple records. Um, Anything to add to that, Gabi?
Yeah, I do want to add that, once we identify or, if the school confirms to us that, which ID is the legitimate one to be awarding on, because like as Victor mentioned, students do tend to create multiple accounts if they get locked out of their portal. Instead of contacting us to retrieve, they do create new ones. Different schools are awarding them under different IDs depending on what is submitted by the student. So it is very complex to track, and we do know that that is an issue. But again, once we do get some confirmation from the person who's awarding that we have the correct ID, and we will be able to merge all of the records together. And as soon as they are all merged together, then all of the other checkers are going to align. So
Yep.
until we are able to do that merge, there may be some conjointed information out there. But once it's merged, they're all in line together.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Gabi, for bringing that up.
Sure. And then the follow-up with that was the both name and number identifier changes, whether ITIN, SSN, etc. So I believe that was further clarification for the first question.
Okay.
Again, if not, please go ahead and submit another question. We'll answer it at the end of the session. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pass it to Leslie to finish off the remaining slides.
Thanks, Victor.
Yeah, you will.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, oops, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So on relating to the question we just had, so how to resolve multiple IDs is something we will be going over here. So when a student creates, like mentioned before, creates multiple WASFA accounts, this will create multiple WASFA IDs. If a student does have multiple IDs in the portal, there are steps that we can take to then resolve the issue. And so, yeah, this is kind of the process on how we would go about resolving the multiple IDs. So if a student has multiple SSN or ITIN numbers, we ask that you confirm which of the numbers provided is the correct one. Once you have confirmed if SSN is correct, then they should be awarded on that number. So there's a hierarchy. So if a student has an SSN, they should be awarded under their SSN number. If they don't have an SSN but have an ITIN, then they should be awarded on their ITIN. If they don't have either an SSN or an ITIN, then they should be awarded on their WASFA ID number. And so typically WASFA ID numbers start in 98. So once the correct ID has been determined and a student is awarded in Seesaw on the correct ID, we ask that you send a secure message to our WCG email or inbox through the secure messaging portal. And then we just ask that you include the student's name and then the correct ID that they should be awarded on. And then we will then merge their records. And we'll also follow up with you once that process has been complete. Yeah, and so we did just want to provide a little information on some known issues and workarounds for those. And so one of the biggest things that we do see is some students or parents getting stuck in step 2 of View My Forms as part of the electronic signature portion. We do see this happen specifically when students or parents are on a mobile device, whether that's a cell phone or a tablet or iPad. And specifically with Safari, because with Apple products, the browser defaults to Safari for most people. And so, yeah, I guess the workaround for that is the electronic and application process work best on a computer or laptop device. If a student doesn't have access to a laptop or desktop, we just ask that they use Google Chrome or Firefox as the preferred internet browser. With Apple products, they would have to download this through the App Store, just because, again, Safari is the default browser with Apple products. And then another known issue here is, so we did have an issue with our SAI calculations for dependent students for the 25-26 academic year. And so we had some schools reach out to us. Thank you to those schools who did reach out. That problem is now resolved. So the SAI formula was programmed incorrectly by our application service or regent, and a fix was implemented at the end of May. So the SAI calculation formula is now accurate for those students. And then for students who completed an application during when that issue was present, we will be running a process to update the SAIs for the impacted students who submitted a WASFA before the fix was implemented. Oh, yeah. And so the time frame for this process is still to be determined, but we are hoping to have that implemented hopefully in July. But we will also send out a communication as well once that process has been ran. And then lastly, another one that's not super common, but we do see it. We have seen a handful of students run into this issue, specifically with dependent students also. When they sign their portion of the application, they get stuck in progress status. And so they're not able to send a parent invitation to their parent. And so, they fill out the application, they sign, and then rather than it changing to pending parent signature status, they get stuck in process. If you have a student who runs into this issue, please have them reach out to us. We do have a workaround. That we can run to resolve the issue, but it is something we do have to initiate from our end and in our system. So if you have a student who runs into this issue, please have them reach out to us, and then we will then work with them to resolve the issue and provide further guidance on what the next steps would be. And then, yeah, just some information. So WASAC can provide students and their parents with assistance on any technical related issues or just general questions that they have. They can reach out to us at our WASFA email at wasfa@wasac.wa.gov. And then we'll follow up with them from there. We will ask them to include the email address that's linked to their WASF account, as well as some other identifying information. But that's something we will communicate with the student as needed or family as needed. And then, yeah, I just wanted to highlight we still have some upcoming trainings for next week. So you can still register if you're interested. As you can see, we have 4 sessions that will be taking place next week. So I invite you, if you're interested, please sign up. There's still time and we will still have more. And then, yeah, lastly, a short survey will pop up after this presentation is over. So once we close the meeting, it will pop up here, but you can also scan the QR code here if you'd like. But please let us know how we did and if you'd like to, what you would like to see in the future. Your feedback is important to us. And then lastly, we just wanted to thank you for joining us today. And now we'll have time for some questions that may have come up towards the end here. So I will stop
Fantastic.
sharing. Oh,
All
oh,
right, so
sorry.
I will start with the questions for you and Victor to respond to.
Okay.
The first we have is if a school uses PJ and changes the student's status as dependency, can the student, is the student still able to change the status again to be independent online?
Yes, they have access to logging back to their account. So that's something that you would need to communicate with the student. But yeah, they have access when they log back into their WASFA account. They have access to edit their application.
And that will create a new transaction number, is that correct, or no?
Oh, well, if they click on edit, only if they go through the process of e-signing, e-signing, and submitting that through.
Thank you.
But it will create a new transaction if they do submit that through.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We have students who start with I-10s and awarded per seesaw, but then receive an SSN and update their new identification for a new application. Does this create duplicate accounts?
Not duplicate WASFA accounts. Yeah, it would. Yeah, no, it wouldn't create a duplicate WASFA account because the only way there would be a duplicate is if the student initiates that and creates it from our login page. So it would then correct, but it would have to be through, before we didn't have the corrections, but now that is available. So if you are needing to correct that, that's something you can just do through our corrections process and it wouldn't create a duplicate account for the student.
Yeah, our Seesaw portal should be reading the multiple IDs on a single WASFA. Now that's different if the student creates a second WASFA under the new ID. That would create a duplicate account for the student. So as long as they're just updating a current WASFA, it should not create a duplicate account. I had a student who also completed a WASFA as a parent. They had submitted their own WASFA and we had received it. However, they were unable to see their own application when they logged into their account and only showed the applications for their child. I think they were able to resolve this issue with WASAC, but is this a common issue? And then follow-up is she needed to correct the info on her application.
Yeah, so there are two different accounts. So there's a student account and then there's a parent account, and they have to be linked to two different emails. So it could have been that the parent was logging in to the email that was their parent account or linked to their parent account, so they couldn't see their own application that they had completed. Um, but if we can also look into that as well if a parent needs to, you know, I guess confirm which email has been linked to their student account. But um, if a parent creates a parent account, they can't use that same account to submit their own application as a student. They would have to create a separate account with a different email.
Right. Can you please explain specifically what the issue is with the SAI calculation mentioned for dependent students? Was there a memo regarding this, or is there a way to identify if SAIs are incorrect and would be reprocessed later in July? Is this all dependent students, student WASFAs?
Yeah, so our application servicer does have a way to identify the impacted students, and it wasn't for all dependent students. It was, I forgot the exact formula, but it was only a handful of dependent students, but our provider has a way to identify all the impacted students. So we will run that process and it will update the SAIs for those who submitted an application while that issue was present. I don't know, Victor, if you have anything else to add to that.
I know we were working on, because we wanted to work as Regent on gathering how many were affected, and then we will send out an email kind of touching base on this issue.
Okay, just an FYI, looking at our FAA resources pages, the wasac.wa.gov FAA resources, under the 25-26 program guidance, we did post and we did email out some guidance on SAI Formula A miscalculations for WASFA filers, and that went out on April 3rd, 2025.
Thanks, Gabi.
Absolutely. Okay. Next question. Can you explain more about the SAI miscalculations? What fields were impacted? Was it all dependent students? Did we just answer that? Or is it
Yeah.
a little bit different? Okay. Then we can go to following up on my question, does that apply to annual applications year over year? This was Cindy's question. Not sure what
Yeah.
question that was related to,
Yeah.
but Cindy, if you can expand on that a little bit, we'll be happy to answer. After that, we have from Ashley. In the meantime, though, how are schools supposed to know what to look for miscalculated SAIs? With summer one starting soon, we will be dispersing soon.
So we'll take this back to the team and send out guidance, additional guidance as soon as possible.
Okay, Ashley says thank you. You're welcome, Ashley. So Cindy, following up on my question, does that apply to annual applications year after year? And then she followed up with I-10 and SSN and Seesaw.
I'm still not following the question.
Oh, I think hers was the with the duplicate accounts. So it wouldn't create a duplicate account. And then once you correct, so for example, if a student hadn't, you were wording on their WASFA ID or their ITIN, but then they got an SSN and you're updating the SSN, they would then be awarded on their SSN moving forward. So you only need to make that correction one time, and then it would be updated for any other application years or 8 years, I mean.
Okay, I think we answered the questions. If there's anything else, yes, Cindy confirmed that. Thank you. So we got that answered. Perfect. Any other questions? We'll give you about 30 seconds more to get those in. Okay, not seeing anything else coming in.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.